Coercive control, a form of domestic abuse that isn't marked by bruises or broken bones, but by invisible chains, psychological warfare, and a slow erosion of identity and freedom. Coercive control is only recognized in 10 states in the United States right now. That's not enough. Too many victims suffer in silence, manipulated, isolated, and gaslit into submission by their abusers. And I also know this all too well because I've lived it. I know what it's like to be isolated, to have my world shrink down to just one person controlling everything. My husband cut me off from my family, made sure I barely spoke to my friends. I was the one working, taking care of our son 100% of the time, exhausted beyond belief. I paid the bills, I cooked, I kept everything running, and still, it was never enough. He belittled my modeling work, threw out the magazines I was very proud of, ripped up any images he didn't approve of. I felt trapped. I hated being married to this person, but had no way out. I had no family support at that time, and no one to help me escape until I did. But it took me 4 years to do so. To those listening who feel unseen, unheard, and alone, know this: you are not alone. There is help. There is a way out. And together we can push for change so that coercive control is recognized for what it is: abuse.
If you think you've been in a coercively controlling relationship, here are the 7 stages to help you identify whether you've been in one, according to Dr. Torna Pittman, an expert in coercive control. If you don't know, coercive control is very similar to narcissistic abuse because they both follow very similar patterns. However, while the term narcissistic abuse isn't legally recognized, the term coercive control is not only legally recognized, it's criminalized in most places in the United States and in other places like the UK and Australia. The first stage in a coercively controlling relationship is the binding stage. To translate this over to narcissistic abuse, this would be the idealization stage or the love bombing stage. It's where the coercive controller manufactures a sense of safety, similar to how a cult leader would manufacture safety and dependence on the cult leader. So grooming. So it will include things like mirroring, data collection, love bombing, future faking. All of these terms that we use in narcissistic abuse is also used in a coercively controlling binding phase. The second stage is the disempowerment stage, and it's very similar to the devaluation stage, and it's meant to chip away at your self-esteem, but also it's where the narcissistic abuser, the coercive controller, will assert dominance within the relationship. They may do this through hypercriticism, assuming a sense of superiority in conversation, manipulation, gaslighting, and really it's an attempt to assert dominance over you in a relationship, assert authority over you in a relationship, and chip away at your self-esteem and autonomy. You may leave conversations with them feeling disempowered, smaller, and minimized. The third stage is the enduring/management stage, where you self-gaslight, you minimize the abuse, you focus on survival, you take responsibility, you place the blame solely on yourself and not on the coercive controller. And they do this so subtly, they disempower you so subtly that it's very difficult to place the blame on the coercive controller because there's usually no overt forms of abuse yet. That's until stage 4, the defining moment. So that's where something happens where you're either away from the abuser, maybe you fled or something felt off, so you fled or you had a last straw moment, an aha moment, and that's where you notice that what's happening to you is abuse. This also goes into the 5th stage, the disengaging stage, where you start to label and understand the abuse. The confusion and the fog starts to fade. And in narcissistic abuse, we call this part of our healing or the education phase, which is, hi, welcome to my channel. The 6th stage is the relationship ending stage, and it's similar to a narcissistic discard. The 7th stage is the post-separation abuse stage, and it's where the coercive controller asserts dominance through property settlement, co-parenting, etc.
This is things I didn't realize were abusive until I was out of the relationship, part 4. My ex constantly would fact check every single thing that I said. And I also didn't realize this was abusive until I saw a lot of other creators talking about the same thing, and I was like, oh my god, my ex did that. I would say a random thing that I knew or a fact or whatever. We would just be having conversation and my ex would be like, no, I don't think so. Let me just Google that. Let me just check that. He would disagree with pretty much anything I said. I could talk about a news article and he'd be like, I heard differently. Let me research it myself. I would even talk about crime statistics, and I have a master's degree in criminology. And he would try to debate me on these kind of things, things that I was literally an expert in. And he'd be like, I don't believe you. Let me do my own research. It got to a point where I just wouldn't even want to talk about something because I knew he would just disagree with me or need to fact check something. And if he fact checked it and it turns out that I was right, he would find something else to disagree with me about regarding my thoughts or opinions or whatever about what we were talking about. It was like I was never allowed to be right. So I just never really wanted to talk because I was always getting like talked down to. And so it was very frustrating and I did not realize how much that really affected me. And thank God I am out of that situation now.